Everything you say and do can and will be used against you. You ever heard of that? Yep, they use it against you. The slightest presumption that you present through the words that you articulate or through your actions can and will be used against you. Someone turns around with his hands raised and the chamber is emptied on them. Someone says no once and false charges are brought. Well, the good thing about a thing called law is it's double-edged, and you can do the same. So here's a little quickie for you. A wellness check. Usually most municipal employee police will approach you, and when you say, is everything okay, how can I help you, depending on whether you know what you're doing or not, usually people are curious when people with firearms approach them. Some of them are more direct and they try to just start giving you orders. Whether that's lawful or not, we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the other, which is some of them are quite tricky. They'll say, oh no, we're just checking on you. We're just checking this. Are you okay? That right there, believe it or not, is called a welfare or wellness check. And usually the intent that most municipal police have is to in fact escalate the matter so they could get their arrest, generate those bonds and make that money, get their little commission, and get their reputation going on in the ranks. Or maybe they had a bad day with their wives, their boyfriends. The culture and the tradition of where they work for is telling them, hey, go out there and be the boss. They're not used to people asking them questions. They like being the one asking the questions and making you feel inferior. So some of them get upset, they express it. Some of them get upset, they don't express it. They try to use a bit of creativity. See, those ones that use the creativity, you can use that against them. They're going to say, oh, we're just checking on you. Everything okay? We just got a call to see, someone say you were so-and-so, and we're just checking on you. You all right? That's called a welfare check. And guess what? 9 out of 10 times, they will escalate the matter to a criminal investigation, and they would not articulate what's going on fully, which is required by law in stare decisis case law. When you eventually do a counterclaim or you sue them, that will be one of the cause of action that you will have if you're claiming tort or civil rights claim or any type of discrimination. Are you trying to say they engage in battery or false arrest? Intent of malice and willful negligence are two keys, meaning they knowingly did it and they chose to ignore the facts and the truth. The way you can prove the fact that they knowingly did it is because they verbalized to you that they're just checking on you rather than performing an investigatory stop, meaning they're doing an investigation for a crime that could have been committed, which they are liable to articulate to you, and you will use that against them as part of the reasons why they knew what they were doing. It was willful, it was deliberate, to the point where they verbalized it. This is why it's also intelligent for you to keep your own records. When you keep records of interaction with people, you don't have to put it in their face, because that can be taken and destroyed. Always be more prudent, preemptory, and discreet. When you engage in any battle or whatever it is that you're doing, one way or the other, you should always give yourself the upper hand. Secrecy is an important part of how battles and wars are won. If you don't put that to your advantage, you yourself are setting yourself up. Because now you can take that audio or video recording. This is the age of technology. You can have certain things on you that as it's recording visually and audio, or just the audio, it automatically uploads to a cloud computing or a virtual computer. You can do that. Look it up. So even if they destroy the physical hardware or take the software and go through it and delete it, you have in your cloud computing. Now you can bring that up as evidence. You can bring the transcript up, or you can put the audio record or video record itself as exhibits to show that this guy presented an articulation that he was doing a welfare check, yet he escalated unnecessarily and unreasonably into a criminal investigation, which was improper. And now that's an evidence of his willful actions of engaging in one thing or the other. So what is a welfare check? It goes on to say a welfare check, also known as wellness check, is when police stop by a person's home to make sure they are okay. This does not have to be your own private place of abode. It can be anywhere, so long as they invoke the fact that they're just trying to check how you doing, or when they approach and say, "Hey, you doing okay?" and you ask them and they're been around the bush and don't tell you, they don't articulate clearly and succinctly to the ordinary person in a manner that's going to make them know, okay, there's a crime that's anticipated to happen or is happening, or they think a crime has occurred and now they're investigation. If they don't make it clear, then they're just doing a welfare check. Especially if they're saying, "Oh, we're just checking on you, seeing if you're okay. We just received a phone call that somebody's doing this." That itself is evidence right there that they're doing a welfare check rather than a criminal investigation, which they will escalate it to and create a police report as though they verbalized that they were doing an investigation and as though you were actually committing a crime. Now, if you're out there actually committed a crime, then you get what's coming to you. You deserve what you got. Now, if you're not, and truly you're innocent, and you're preserving your constitution secured right, and you've articulated that you're enforcing your constitution secured right, because there are many case laws out here that says if you don't verbalize that, hey, I'm exercising my constitution secured right to be secured in my persons and papers. So if there's no crime committed, then there's no requirement for me to give you an ID. But if there is, I'll be more than happy to cooperate with you and assist you with what's going on, because I don't want a crime going on around me. So if you've articulated your constitution secured right, or whatever it is that's going on that they are presuming, but they're not making it quite clear, they're vague, then it's just a welfare check. And that's an evidence of willful malice or willful negligence, especially when you've made them clear what you're doing and they haven't to you. A welfare check, also known as a wellness check, is when police stop by a person's home to make sure they are okay. Again, it's not just your home. It can be down the street. It can be at a store. It can be at a restaurant. Anywhere. It can be while you're hunting. Whatever it is. Requests for welfare checks are made by friends, family, and neighbors, meaning it could be anybody around you. Typically after someone unexpectedly stops answering their phone or getting in touch with them. Typically, meaning usually there are other circumstances. Most people think of the police as patrolling the streets looking for wrongdoers or responding to calls. This is subjective. What many people don't realize is that the police in their community are also available to conduct welfare checks. Meaning it's part of their job. And they know that 90% of the people they interact with are clueless to this. So they'll try to just throw it out there and then slip past it as though it's a proper response to the question that you asked them, or as though it's a proper placement of what their intent is, which is not. Remember, intent is a very important part to prove whatever it is that you point a finger at somebody. So if you're suing them, you have to show their intent. And if they're presenting to you that they're just checking on you, seeing if you're okay, and at the end of the day they escalated to some criminal issue when in truth it's not the crime taking place, it's about to, or it's currently taking place, and they've turned a welfare check and escalated unnecessarily to a criminal investigation or a criminal activity to your detriment. This essential law enforcement function is an important tool for building safe communities. So there are many things that you can use to prove your cause of action so that the 12b6 brick will not be thrown at you. One thing is intent. Intent is extremely important. And if at any moment where you are charged with any crime, whether it's a domestic situation, whether they bring you into a civil thing, or they charge you with criminal activity, and at the beginning of the initiation of contact or during the whole thing, because when they don't like answering questions, they love making demands. So expect about 60% of what you're talking about to be demands. And if you get the ones that want to chat like a little girl, they're going to do that as a way to try to gain control, but it's going to really be followed by an unlawful order. So if at any point within that engagement they tell you, "Oh, we're just checking on you," it's a welfare check. And welfare checks have nothing to do with criminal charges. If they initiated a contact, or within that whole thing they're just saying, "We're just checking on you, seeing how you're doing," they're trying to be tricky about it, yet at the whole totality of the circumstance ended with you being charged with a criminal activity, use it against them, because their intent was demonstrated as though it was welfare check, yet it ended up as a criminal act. They escalated it unnecessarily, and that demonstrates their intent of malice. Best of luck.